for coming. Welcome to UVA Law. I'm Jenny Gibbons. I'm one of the directors of the Innocence Project Clinic. Juliet Hatchett is our other director. She's out on maternity leave right now. And I have some of our wonderful students here who can give you the best tales about what it's like to be in the Innocence Project Clinic. We have Katie, Kevin, Lauren, and Emma. And they are in our year-long academic credit clinic. It's 4 credits per semester, and our clinic, we have a separate pro bono clinic, which I'll talk about in a minute. The year-long clinic is open to second and third year students, but our pro bono volunteer clinic is also open to 1Ls. So you can have the chance to get your feet wet, dip your toes in the water, whatever analogy you want to use, to see if this type of work is interesting to you. So we'll talk about the year-long academic clinic first. We have we meet once a week for class. Class is 2 hours every week, and then each student is assigned to 2 case teams. And those case teams meet once a week for an hour. So you'll come to class for 2 hours, and you will have 2 hours worth of case team meetings a week. And on each case, there's about 4 to 5 students on each case team, and each team works on 2 to 4 cases at a time, sort of depending on what's going on in the cases and what the case demands are. Sometimes we're focusing on one case that's really, there's a ton of investigation to do, and it's eating up all our time. And then sometimes we'll focus on 2 or 3 cases where we've got a little bit of work to do here and a little bit of work to do there. But we try to give the students an opportunity to see cases at different stages of litigation. And so what our clinic students will be doing is investigating and litigating wrongful convictions in Virginia. So we have hundreds of folks who apply to us for help and say they're innocent. And it's their job to figure out if they're innocent, if we believe they're innocent, if there's a way we can prove it. And if we think there is, then we will file something on their behalf in court. So the students get the opportunity to sort of work at every level of the investigative stage and hopefully the litigation stage if the case moves that far. And that means there's a lot of collecting of documents from, circuit courts, from prosecutors' offices, from police departments, from old trial attorneys. You spend a lot of time collecting documents and sorting through them and digesting and figuring out what's important and what's not. And then you make an investigation plan. And then you start to execute it, right? You start knocking on doors. You start going to prisons to visit people. You start making phone calls. You start sending weird Facebook messages to people you've never met. It's all part of that glorious investigation stage. And that stage can take years sometimes. Like most of the cases that these folks are working on now, they will not see through if the case is going to continue, right? Because the cases, it just takes so long to work up these cases. With any luck, all these folks will be team leaders next year in the pro bono clinic, which is where 1, 2, or 3 Ls can volunteer their time, work on case teams, do the same type of work that you do in the year-long clinic, but you are being supervised by our staff attorney, and it's not quite the time commitment that you sign up for when you're in the clinic. You have a little more freedom as to how much time you can donate during your 1L year, which I think, Emma, were you in the, okay, so we have three folks here who were in the clinic last year. Why don't you guys tell folks about sort of how that experience informed joining the clinic the next year?
Yeah, I was on a case team as a 1L, and I think why I loved it so much is probably my favorite experience of 1L. In 1L, you're in a lot of doctrinal classes that are, very much just learning about the law, and I think kind of pulls you away from why you wanted to be in law school. So getting to work on a real case kind of reminded me of why I wanted to do this in the first place. It was amazing to get to work with a real client or a real potential client and really try to get into the facts of a real case as a 1L, which compared to the doctrinal classes that you take as a 1L, it's really gratifying and I think really solidified why I wanted to come to law school.
Emma and I were actually in the same case team, 1L year. I'll try to be fast. It was led by 2 3Ls who had done the clinic in their 2L years. So it was cool to get that immediate exposure to 3Ls who kind of knew what they were doing at the beginning of 1L, but it was also a great opportunity to do the kind of investigation stuff, the real world stuff that you don't really get to do in 1L, like Katie said. I think the biggest thing for me, I was someone who actually came to this IFA session in my Admitted Students Day, knew I wanted to do the Innocence Project, and it was a great opportunity to feel like I was doing something outside of the UVA bubble. But I also knew I wanted to be a prosecutor, and I still do, which some of you may be like, why are you here? I think it's massively important as a prosecutor to get exposure to this kind of stuff, to check your biases, to develop your objectivity, like Lauren's been saying today. And I think that doing this was such a unique opportunity because we spent the year like making a parole petition, figuring out what we were going to argue in front of the parole board. The 3Ls in the case team actually got to argue in front of the parole board. Those are such unique experiences. And I think it really developed my legal mind to actually like put pen to paper and write things rather than just talk about theory the whole time.
Mm-hmm. I second everything y'all said. I would also emphasize one point of how you're just in doctrinals, you're 1L, and it can really be like just a lot. And I'm someone that doesn't love a doctrinal. I like to, sorry, that's probably not what I was supposed to say, but you're supposed to like in these like real life experiences, you can actually gain skills that I think are really valuable for when you actually go into the workforce. So being able to do a clinic is definitely something I would recommend to any student that's coming for Admitted Students Day, because this is actually a time where you can like develop those soft skills and hard skills that you need for a job post grad. And it's not just about learning what the rule is. And I think that can just kind of bog me down. So if you're someone like me, this is definitely an opportunity I would take.
And I think it's important to know that, like, these folks are all going to different places, right? Yeah. Not necessarily criminal law. And so I wonder if they could talk, we'll start with Lauren, especially, if you could talk a little bit about sort of, even if you're not going to land in the criminal legal system, how or why this type of clinic is valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. So I knew coming into law school, I was not going to do criminal law. I'm doing intellectual property law, so it's totally on the civil side of things. It's not even going to touch criminal law. But this kind of exposure has been so valuable. And part of it too is like, it's important to know procedurally how things work, even in the criminal system. It will help you understand the civil system as well. But that's why this class is like, it's a very functional class compared to a lot of doctrinals or other classes that are very theoretical. Like, the things that we learn in this class, we learn for a reason, right? We learn about these cases because those are the case precedents that you will argue when you go to court in order to, make this petition happen or whatever it is. So I just think like the foundational elements of learning are really, really helpful. And I feel like I've gained so many skills in that way. And then the other thing too is like skills like I know how to do a FOIA request now, and I know how to
Post documents.
If you need to circuit court document, any of those kind of skills, those are really valuable too.
Yeah, I echo what Lauren said, that the skills are completely transferable. I'm also interested in doing civil side of things. I'll probably be in healthcare or FDA work. So I won't be touching criminal justice, but criminal justice reform and criminal justice work is something that's personally important to me. And I think something that you can carry throughout law school is that you don't have to have one interest. I knew that I wanted to do healthcare, but that this was also something that I thought was really important. So you can have more than one interest and pursue those. And that's something I would say generally too for law school, that if you see something that you think is really cool, even if it's kind of outside of your comfort zone or what you're typically thinking of doing in your career, like go for it. You never know what you might like.
I will also note, one of the biggest things you do in any career, I think, in the legal field is talk to people and not just like argument, genuinely like talk to people to get information. Witness interviews is a huge part of what we do, not only talking to witnesses, like eyewitnesses at the time, are potential clients, but also the attorneys on either side, the investigators or police officers on either side. And it's very difficult because you have an objective that you want, but you sometimes can't reveal the information that you got from somebody who wants to stay anonymous to that got you to this person. Or yesterday I was talking to an attorney, and I'll keep it very vague for confidentiality and probably because it might bore you. But this attorney had been accused in habeas corpus, which is once you're convicted, it's one of the post-conviction remedies, of being ineffective. So I had to figure out, is he okay with having been accused of being ineffective? Like, how do I get at the root of like the questions I want to ask him about whether or not he was actually ineffective without him getting offended or hanging up the phone? And it was a good conversation, but it took me a little bit of time to do that. And like that kind of 4D chess is I think helpful no matter what you're planning on doing.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
I'm going to a firm that does all types of law, but I came to law school wanting to do criminal law, so I will eventually, hopefully, if the cards, all play out right. I want to go and, do something in the criminal field. I worked I was a legal intern at the Commonwealth Attorney's Office last summer, and I was an extern this first semester. So seeing the defense side of things in class and then also seeing the prosecution side of things in class was a really interesting parallel. Like, we have a case that like one of my, like the people I worked with at the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, he was the prosecutor for, and it's just like those weird like connections is how small the legal field is. Like, you can really see the difference of like, this is a small community. There's not that many lawyers, especially in Virginia. Like, Jenny like talks about, she's like, oh yeah, we worked on them for like a case like a couple times before. Like, it's just, it really shows you two different interesting perspectives. So if you are interested in criminal law, this is a really great opportunity to like utilize those skills and get some experience early on.
Yeah, I said in the last session, like we try to expose you to things that most people would not have had the opportunity to do, particularly when it comes to investigation and just sort of knocking at people's doors or cold calling someone out of the blue. That is not always met with Southern hospitality. Yes. And so sometimes, you have to steel yourself for what it might be like if the person on the other end of the phone or the person at the door doesn't want to talk to you. But I think those are important skills to build, and they will serve you well no matter where you land, right? In the class, I can talk about the class for a minute. We generally spend a lot of the first semester talking about post-conviction remedies available to people who are innocent in Virginia. And so we'll talk about state and federal habeas. We'll talk about Virginia-specific remedies. There's a thing in Virginia called a writ of actual innocence. We'll talk about executive remedies like Kevin and Emma, we're working on this clemency petition. Things that we might present to the governor or the parole board are sometimes the only opportunity that our client might have to be released for a host of reasons. So even if we can't help someone in court, we try to be creative and think about the ways that we can help someone get out of prison if we believe they're innocent. So we also spend some time building these investigative skills that you will be using a lot. So we have the students do mock interviews in the class, which I think is quite nerve-wracking for many students. But I think it builds some valuable skills, and that is something that I think is nice because you can take and use wherever you land. Then we also focus on the causes of wrongful convictions. We'll talk about eyewitness identifications. We'll talk about junk science. We'll talk about race and gender. We talk about police misconduct, prosecutorial misconduct, bad lawyering by the defense. I can't remember what else, but I think one question that a lot of folks often have is the time commitment, both in the volunteer clinic as a 1L. I think lots of 1Ls are overwhelmed by the things that they feel they need to do and have to do and want to do. Can you guys talk a little bit about sort of how you balance doing this as a 1L and how feasible it is to do the clinic now for you with your other the other demands on your time?
Yeah, I'll start with as a 1L. I think in 1L, it was really important to me that I was managing my workload and making sure that school was coming first. That being said, I thought that doing the clinic, the pro bono clinic as a 1L was very feasible. I think I did this, and then I was a 1L rep for one other organization, which was a much lower time commitment than the pro bono clinic. So I think really prioritizing where you want to spend your time, especially 1L when your classwork is pretty demanding, has been really important and was really important to me to allow me to do this as a 1L. But that being said, it is definitely doable if you are not signing up for 80 different things on top of it and really say, this is what I want to do. It's absolutely doable. We are only meeting one time a week and then maybe a few other times if we had a witness call or something like that. But the workload was very manageable. And I thought the staff attorney that we were working with was also very responsive to, oh, you guys have midterms this week. Like maybe we'll slow things down a little bit. So I thought the time commitment as a 1L was very doable. I don't know if you guys want to talk about the clinic.
Both in the pro bono clinic and the year-long clinic, you're never just you yourself working on one case alone. You have several people. And so if there are things that come up in your life, just communication is so important. It's an important skill to learn. But it also, there are so many people to cover your back if you need it. That's been my experience. It hasn't been a big deal at all.
And the 1Ls, like when you're doing a 1L case team, the 3Ls really get the fact that you're a 1L. Like they were just in your shoes 2 years ago. So they don't want to they know that you're stressed and have a lot on your plate. So a lot of times they'll be like, if you have the time and you have the bandwidth, we'd love for you to help us with X assignment, but they're not going to stress you out in a way that makes you feel like this is more important than your doctrinals that you're taking.
And then as for the clinic, it's a 4-credit, clinic. And so I don't think it's necessarily any more work than any other 4-credit class. The work is just distributed differently. So your time is going to be spent throughout the whole semester. But by the time classes end and finals start, there's no more clinic, no final or anything like that. So you can focus your attention towards your other exams. So you're just redistributing your load in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, you're spending a lot of time. The students get to travel a fair amount doing these investigations. And so, one, you have the opportunity to get to know your teammates very well, for better or worse. You get to know us, the directors, very well, again, for better or worse. But I think it provides a pretty unique opportunity as far as law school goes to sort of get out on the road and, knock on doors. And I think, do you guys have anything, is there anything that you've done that has surprised you that you didn't think that would be part of the clinic, or any sort of funniest videos moments from what you've been tell them something fun or about the work. Yeah.
Well, I don't know that this is fun, but I think it's good. I went to prison for the first time this year to meet with a potential client. And I thought, as someone who had never been in a prison before, that even though I'm not doing criminal justice work after law school, I think it was very important for me as a law student to go into a prison and understand kind of the power of what we're working with. So I think that was a really important moment in my legal education. I was extremely glad to have the opportunity to talk to a potential client there and to get to interact with people in prison. So I think that was an invaluable experience that even if you don't end up doing the clinic, which I hope you all do, you get the opportunity to do something like that in your legal education. I think it's really important.
I'm on my teams with Emma and Lawrence, so we have a lot of similar experiences. Yeah. The thing I'll talk about is we have this case right now of this person who's thankfully no longer in prison and we think is innocent, but every single person we talk to, it gets us on a different road of, well, maybe this is what happened, and maybe this is what happened, and maybe this is what happened. And it's about the same event, and it's a really narrow event. It happened very quickly, so there's not a lot of different ways that you could see the event, but it's about who was where when, or who has a reason they might be telling this information, whether they're lying or not. And it's very, again, the whole thing about objectivity and making sure that you're staying grounded in what is my perspective. You don't get into the groupthink of the other even members on your case team and what they think. It's very difficult, and I can feel myself learning, but it's very hard to stay grounded in, I hear what this person is saying. I understand it might be their truth, but I don't think it's actually what happened based on what I've heard from other people. I still think the person is innocent, but how are we going to be able to prove it? What are we going to be able to do? What's our next step? It's very complicated. My actual best memory is the thing that Lauren was saying, but she said it last time, and I really liked how she said it.
Oh, thanks. This was like my first trip with the Innocence Project. We went on this trip to a sheriff's office like 3 hours away. It was like pretty far away early on in the semester, fall semester. And, we go down, there's a lot of bonding, ice breaking, all this in the car. It was really nice. And then we get to the little sheriff's office, and we're sitting in this little room, and we were there like reviewing documents for 8 hours. It was like all day endeavor. And I think it's small town sheriffs, the small town cops. They're coming in, they're telling us their horror stories and like what's going on in the streets right now and whatever. And yeah, it was a great experience. Long day, but worth it.
Okay, my turn.
Do you have one? Just make something up.
Okay, well, my thing is about you, Jenny, because I think that when you're in a huge class with a ton of people that like you're all just listening to a professor talk, it's not the same experience as having like, I don't know, supervisors, and like you have small case teams, so you really get to know the people on your teams, which I think is like one of the experiences I didn't expect to get out of law school as super valuable, because you really do get to like interact with really awesome attorneys and really cool people that you might not have interacted with like otherwise. When you're sitting in a classroom, you're just listening to a professor talk most of the time and hearing people get cold called, which is, not very fun, as you're going to figure out very shortly. But I think my favorite part is when Jenny asks us what the little word phrase of like the case team is, because she has so many cases. So she has to be like, what case is this again? And she'll be like, it's like gun shooting in park or something, and like and she immediately knows the case, and it's every time. So yeah.
It's a sad comment.
It's
to
not
state
sad.
of my cognitive functioning. But yes, there are too many cases to remember. So every team meeting I go into, I'm like, what case is this? And they're like, the Norfolk murder. And I was like, nope, I need more. I've got like 3 Norfolk murders. This is the one where the person stepped over the body. Okay. I have dubbed Emma my Gen Z support.
With
Support
support
student.
slang.
Yeah, because I usually in case team meetings we sit near each other and somebody will say a word and I was like, Emma, what does that mean? So she translates for me. I had a student a couple years ago get me a Gen Z dictionary. And then I have what is my son? A Gen Alpha.
A Gen Alpha.
I have a lot. Between like Skibbity and
See, I don't know any of that.
I don't know any of that.
I can't even remember his words. Anyway, yes, I learn a lot from my students as well. I think the other nice thing is that we try, and most of the time the students have the ability to sort of, and the need to think strategically about what our options are after we've conducted our investigation and gathered all the facts that we think are out there to gather. Then we have to make strategic decisions about which remedy to pursue, which one might have the greatest likelihood of success, what are the risks if we go down X path before Y path. And that those skills, again, are ones that you can use no matter where you land, right? And I think it's probably I think the clinic is a really unique and fun opportunity to be a lawyer and an advocate. And you don't get as many of those in law school as I think you should. So whether you take this clinic or another one, I highly encourage the experiential learning.